from South Africa's point of view, yes, it was pride that they were playing for, and it wasn't the proudest performance they'd want to come out with.
Well, they've been having tough World Cup, and when you have just a tournament like this, things go in this fashion somewhat, because there was you can see that the dressing room is a bit down. Like every time you during the match, they play the camera on the dressing room, and you can see the sorry faces, the dejected faces. That is something which is understandable. I think that they'll have to. The good thing is they've played 7 games, so they just have 2 more games to go, but they have to somehow lift themselves up and go on a winning note. That's something which they have to look for. Obviously, after this World Cup, there will be a lot of scrutiny, a lot of discussions. The roadmap forward, the plan forward will be discussed, and yes, you will see a lot of changes for sure in terms of how the team is carrying themselves on the field as well. So that is something which always happens. Like you've seen this World Cup, you've always been talking about England and how they made that shift after that 2015 World Cup. I mean, World Cup is a milestone tournament, and you've always seen that the teams who have not done well or the teams who have done well, they have made changes going forward, because once the World Cup is over, you start planning for the next World Cup. You'll talk about, okay, 4 years down the line, where do you see this team? What are the performances? Who are going to continue for the next? What are the chances of players continuing for the next World Cup? Can they give us one more World Cup? If they're not, then you start seeing the changes in the team. For South Africa, I think there is going to be a whole lot of shift in terms of how things are done. Because you don't want such a potential team playing this way. They've just managed to beat Afghanistan so far, and there was a washout game. They've played well in patches, but you would expect maybe someone like Amla might make way for someone else, or there will be discussions around the captaincy. What is the right way, whether Quinton de Kock should be made captain, or Faf is the able leader to continue. Aiden Markram has been captaining. Quinton de Kock has captain. So that's how, I mean, these are discussions which will happen for South Africa, and but it's important that they finish strongly, even though it's tough. We all know that it's been a tough World Cup for them.
But similar words we heard even a couple of matches ago about Sri Lanka. We were already starting to talk about them planning for the next World Cup, and they had problems. They were complaining about X factors. But how they've turned themselves around?
Well, see, that still stands for Sri Lankan cricket, because it's not just a, like, see, winning can only hide so many issues. Some of them are glaring issues which need to be addressed. Winning can only hide those kind of surface level issues, but something that are deep rooted, you really need to go in and fix those things. So I think irrespective of how Sri Lanka end up doing in this World Cup, they will have to look at probably a restructuring phase and then giving opportunities. That would be a different spectrum. But with South Africa, it's a whole other thing. It's a whole other game, right? You could see, I agree with Zakbai, when the moral within the side was so down. You can see with their body language, them expressing themselves with each other on the field when they know there are 30-40 cameras on them. You could see when they in the Lord's dressing room, when the camera panned at them, you could see that they were dull. They looked a little desolate, and they didn't look chirpy. And it's going to happen. You can't. It's easy for us to kind of pin it on or say that if AB de Villiers is here, it would have been different. AB de Villiers was there in the 2011 World Cup. He was there in the 2015 World Cup. Things still didn't go their way. There were still issues that we still talk about today that are very present in South African cricket. So those things need to be addressed, and then they have to find a way forward. But I agree, I think there's huge potential, and for a team with this much potential, to see them performing the way they have as an avid cricket admirer, it would be very disheartening.